of all, thank you for being there throughout the day. I'm very honored to share the stage with these four leaders for the respective companies representing in the digital health space. I'll make the introduction, and then we'll go into question and answers. So in no particular order, I'll start with Rima Podar. Rima is a highly accomplished growth leader with over 28 years of experience driving success across the enterprise software landscape. From early startups to large corporations like Philips, Teradata, GE, she held pivotal roles such as CEO, Chief Product and Technology Officer, Chief Product and Technology Officer, and Executive Vice President, consistently shaping organizations for exceptional results. Rima's expertise spans products and services, digital transformation, and market reshaping across diverse industries like industrial, healthcare, data, and analytics, and cybersecurity. Next, we have Ritvik. Ritvik has joined us from Seattle. Ritvik is an established industry leader with 20 years of experience leading technology teams across a wide variety of industries, including aerospace, semiconductors, enterprise SaaS, and consumer. He's passionate about bringing new technologies to market in ways that make a difference to people's everyday life, and deeply committed to building an inclusive and diverse culture in the workplace. Helping people achieve their fullest potential, he currently is a CTO of Headspace. He has leadership roles at Compass and Microsoft prior to that, and he holds a PhD in computer science from University of Utah and a BS from PTS Pilani. Next, we have Erin, next to me. Erin Angel is a medtech executive with a rare combination of strong scientific background and business acumen. She oversees research and scientific affairs for GE Healthcare and has held leadership roles in scientific and medical affairs as well as product leadership. Her experience includes journal management for a business division, which was one of the 3 largest computed tomography businesses in medical imaging in the US. A medical physicist by training, she is dedicated to positively impacting clinical care by effectively translating innovations to the clinical environment. Dr. Angel holds dual bachelor degree in physics and business economics, and she earned a master's and PhD in biophysics from UCLA. And finally, last but not least, Eli, who joined us from New York, is a leader in Bain & Company. I hope you enjoyed his, one of the keynote sessions earlier in the day. And he's in the healthcare and life sciences practice, specializing in advising life sciences firms as well as investors and tech community initiatives in the sector. Eli is a recognized expert in translating advances in artificial intelligence, which we're going to talk a lot about in the session, into tangible improvements in the productivity of life science innovation. This includes identifying the right applications of AI, building solutions, implementing the infrastructure, and promoting the behavior around the AI solutions. Thank you for joining us on the stage, and really honored to be there. So the key takeaway in our topic is digital health and AI. So I'll throw common questions, and then each of you can chime in from your perspective, right? So there is, the way I think about it, there is a traditional AI, which was a deep neural network, and a lot of work been going on for the last 10 plus years. In the last 2 years, we have these large language models and generative AI. So they suddenly created a lot of interest and investments and buzz around it. So from a digital health chapter and digital health, let's say from your respective companies, how do you think, what are the, how do you see AI playing a role in diagnostics and treatment and in productivity and efficiency across your organizations? And start with maybe.
Sure. Thank you. So I'll start with a quick linguistics lesson for those that aren't usually in the medical space. Why don't people in medical say generative AI, and why don't we say large language models? 2 key reasons. Healthcare is longitudinal in nature, so we have another dimension of time, and also we're multimodal. So, right, we need images as well as, text data or language data in our generative or foundation models. You'll hear us say foundation models because it's a little more accurate in the healthcare space. Where is it being used? Everywhere. But there's some really clear boundary conditions because you have to consider who owns the data. What is the impact on the patient? It's very rare, if not unheard of, that the FDA would clear anything where a device is actually practicing the medicine. Right, so that's another boundary condition. A lot of these AI algorithms, particularly people say consider the last mile if you're in a startup, consider whether you could ever even get through the FDA. If you think that you're going to diagnose COVID, for example, I can tell you, good luck, it's not going to work for you. So considering like those boundary conditions in healthcare that are quite a bit different than other industries.
So anybody else? Ritvik, you want to add?
Yeah. So I'm also in sort of mental health care, and very similarly, regulations are sort of the biggest sort of barrier to truly adopting, I think, foundation technologies in practicing healthcare. But sort of our company has actually been using language models because we're a digital mental health company that provides sort of therapy, behavioral health coaching, all over sort of an app-based platform. And so we've been using language models to assist our providers. So where we've started exploring the use of these technologies is not in actually practicing medicine, but in helping the practitioners of medicine. And the other area, of course, that I'm sure many of us have experienced ourselves is in building personalized experiences for our customers and members. So those are the areas where I think we're starting to see these technologies take root. And then as regulatory bodies get sort of up to speed, my hope is that we get to a place where we can actually start adding interventions that are digitally delivered through these models.
Yeah, I think, thank you, Aaron, for setting the boundary, and Ritvik for kind of saying that it's not just in the diagnosis, but also in the mental health space. The way I look at AI, obviously, while we have challenges, the areas of opportunity of AI getting leveraged, and AI has been, used decades before. I mean, there is now we are getting more awareness because of its, just like data got democratized, AI is getting democratized. So in the medical field, in the healthcare field, where the most leveraged and used is on the precision medicines, then diagnostics, where AI is really helping radiologists, clinicians, to really diagnose the problem at a faster pace with the data. And I think Aaron did talk about, in the medical field, it's not the large language model, it's the large medical model that has been used because of the time, the space, the image, the disparate, the structured, unstructured data. There are so many attributes that you have to bring into bear. That's one. The other is telemedicine. I'm sure many of you, I've used it multiple times during COVID. Though we had Zoom and everything, we were not used to talking to the doctors. Recently, my mom was here, and I had to, talk to the doctor in India. Look at how AI and the technology specifically is really, helping us. The other is communication between the patient and the health provider. More and more communication, open communication, quick prognosis is getting happen there. The biggest element is you and me as patients, how are we benefiting out of it, right? So the patient outcome, the health and well-being of them, how do you predict it proactively? How can you prevent? So more preventative care using the model is also an area where there is a lot of advancement happening. Specifically, if I talk about Philips, GE, where I was in GE Healthcare, and Teradata, for example, where we have seen often the AI model and data model getting really leveraged is on operational efficiency. How do you really bring about workflow integration? When I talk about workflow integration, is all about how quickly can we automate the mundane task, generation of report. If you really look at, if you ask a radiologist based on the complexity of the case of the patient, sometimes, it is in 15, 30 minutes you're able to come to a decision making, looking at the image, whether it's MR, CT, and all that. But the complexity lies in the vital signs and the vital areas that the patient might have, right? And so report generation, you could make mistakes, but now you can clearly see that they're leveraging a lot. And I'll finally stop with this, is if you really look at the Labor Bureau statistics, it is eye-boggling. 21,000 every year that is open positions at the end of the year with respect to radiologists. So we don't have enough radiologists to really look at the cases. So that is an area where radiology operations command centers are getting used so that we can handhold or we can help, experienced radiologists can help the beginners to come to bear and get the diagnosis done quickly. So that is one area where Philips is really focused on, and also with the GE Healthcare and others.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe Eli, your perspective a little bit more broader.
Yeah, I agree with all that, especially the point that it's everywhere. So what you haven't heard is any comment on technical limitations. The models now are so good on text interpretation, cognitive tasks, video, looking at imaging, that the issues are much more limitations on what we do with it versus that we don't think that technology can achieve better or beyond human cognitive skills. There's some physical things, surgery, manufacturing of tools, those kind of things that, of course, AI can't do. But other than that, it's sort of everything is possible. And we've shifted our, what we're worried about more is the human side of things. So for something like a tool that helps a pathologist make a diagnosis, the attitude is, we're comfortable with that as long as a human makes the final call on the diagnosis. But what we're seeing is the tools are so repeatably good, the humans get complacent, and then the human isn't really in the loop anymore. So that's where we're seeing the flags, the boundaries, is finding the right way to make sure the humans actually are engaged, because otherwise the technologies are just phenomenally capable now.
Yeah, very good. So we have seen the industries that are open and free, like started with the internet. Innovation thrives, and you're competing, and small companies can come up with something and really launch fast, learn from it, and iterate. In the medical field, in the digital health, or broader medical field, there are a lot of regulations, and there's FDA, and there's all those constraints, which is completely understandable because it's human life. So do you see, like, if you put each of you, adding to the same question, that if you put your lens of 10 years, where AI is going, and where is FDA and regulation, typically slows down the innovation. So where do you see the innovation going way ahead of it, the curve, and then the regulation would be slowing it down, so there will be a lot more applications in the other areas in AI, and then in medical space will be a little constrained because it takes longer, or how do you see about it? Because the regulation part is always longer, right? And then if you go through FDA, even they were defining good machine learning practices and all those standards, and it takes a while. So maybe any point on that? That if you put a lens of 10 years from now, close your eyes and say, where will be the technology be, and in the digital health landscape, where it will be? Do you think diagnosis will be happening automatically?
Yeah, so I can take a cut, and obviously, please do join. So the question is not, would AI be getting used and how fast? The real question is, just like data democratization happened, AI is democratized right now, right? So the biggest thing is, how fast can you educate? How fast can you educate these regulatory boards, people, and create awareness? That's the huge thing. And more people should know about it, right? So there is a scare factor of it. The other thing is about technology. As more and more technology adoption is happening, and there is a security aspect that someone has to keep in mind, right? So if you really look at cybersecurity, for example, we all start mobile banking, we transfer Zello, you PayPal, whatever it is. And now it's widely used, but there was a necessity of putting barriers and regulations and how the transaction should be, how encryption should happen, how quickly. The same model will come into AI, right? So the faster creation, awareness, faster education, and policies needs to be put in place, and it will be put in place. But the biggest element is, when it comes to health, it is about comfort, right? It's about how well can you educate the patient, and our generations are pretty vast, right? We have old, medium, new, or a kind of thing. So how quickly can you really make sure that the patient is comfortable of adopting it? So just to tie it all in, absolutely, I think AI will be leveraged. I see, in my humble opinion, I see more about as efficiency creating, and also about diagnosis, where you can really look into those aspects. The other is about, instead of telling a disease, it's going to be a conditional treatment. For example, obstructive sleep apnea is something that everybody is aware of it, and it's not told us it's a condition. It's kind of, you feel, the patient feels it's a disease. So I think it's about how quickly can you really make people aware and how can you leverage technology wisely, with the regulatory body also coming to that. Where we were sitting in the fintech session earlier. That's exactly what is happening in bank tech and healthcare space.
I might take it from the development of medicines perspective. So on a 10-year basis, we don't expect clinical trials to go away. We still are going to want to test medicines before we send them out and let physicians prescribe them broadly. Other than that, the development of medicines will be completely unrecognizable 10 years from now. Because in parallel to all of this automation and intelligence, we're also developing the tools to directly edit genes and cells and to understand the connection between those edits and the end disease. So even sooner than 10 years from now. And we're already getting signs that the probability of success and the quality of molecules that are being developed using AI now is higher than those that are not using AI. So I think 10 years from now, we're going to be in a totally different paradigm where we're able to much better predict what medicines will work, much better able to design medicines that work. We're much better, because the economics are better, we're able to more specifically develop medicines that work in a narrower population than now. So I think the development of medicines will be completely different on a 10-year basis. We'll still have regulations around appropriate use and testing of those, but everything else will be different.
Okay. Any other question you want to add? Or?
I'll just say I think that in the medical space will be slower than we think it will be. We saw, Rima and I are in the same field, so we saw, what was that, like 5 to 7 years ago at our big conference, Google, Microsoft, everybody kind of showed up because they were going to get into medical for obvious reasons. One of the largest markets in the US, huge opportunity from like a workflow and lean perspective, because healthcare is completely not lean. If you put AI into that space, it seems so obvious that you could fix things, right? And they were really excited about it, and they stood out like sore thumbs because none of them were in dark suits at this conference where everybody wears dark suits. And they have all pulled back. Frankly, not all, but most of them have pulled back quite a bit from our space, because I think that they've realized how complex the regulatory environment is in healthcare and what it really takes to bring a product to market.
Yeah, very good. So if you look at the AI, there are 3 main elements. There's the models which are evolving very fast. There's the infrastructure and plumbing that you need to run models at scale, which is all the cloud providers and everyone is scaling. The third element is the data that you train on. So all the public models that you see, they train on public data, and it's evolving. But in healthcare, there's a lot of private data due to privacy reasons, but also data that's specific to a company that's not published, right? So how do you see the role of data, clean data that's used to generate those models? That will be the key differentiator. If you look at what's the key differentiator? Is it the models that are becoming commodity, or is it the data that each company has, and which are not non-public data that you have, and that will be the one that will give you the key differentiator in your offerings using AI?
Yeah, so definitely, data defines everything, right? Data, the quality of the data is what you're really looking at. So there is a lot of aspect that comes into play when it comes to data privacy. So how can you anonymize? So even if a company has this much set of data, anonymizing the data so that the personal information is out. The other thing would be listen, we don't have enough data. We could say we have health data is not there much, because we started with wearable devices just probably 10 years back. So if you're really looking at cardiology as a study, you need more data. There is a lack of cardiology-related data available, though not everybody is wearing the devices, like wearable devices. So I think it's the shortage of that. The other is the data privacy of that. The other element is the quality of the data, and how do you really put that data to use. And again, I think another element would be the bringing the vendor consolidation, especially when it comes to big hospitals, big doctors, portals, patient data. So I'm not just talking about the health, but also electronic data that we are talking about, right? So where we are right now is a lot of disparate vendors. Where we will head to eventually, that will really help, will be streamlining the vendor data, and then from there, you taking it. So analytics is going to play a huge role.
Yeah. So there's a lot about personalized medication and also using AI and data to create personalized solutions for your condition. So how do you see that condition evolving? Do you think that's a viable solution going forward, and how do you see it evolving in the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, so speaking for mental health, we think of data as one of our sort of biggest assets. We've been in the industry for 15 years now, and we've been collecting all of the data on sort of our patients' interactions with our providers. Obviously, it's all patient data. We're under the regulations of HIPAA, and we're high trust certified. But that's allowed us already. Like, personalization isn't even in the future, I think. I mean, personalization is sort of centralized to what we do today, because, I mean, if you think about mental health, like, everyone's journey is different. Yeah. And so our providers are able to, very deeply understand every interaction a member has with our products, whether that's an actual therapy interaction or not, whether they're engaging with content or, with a coach. So personalization is like one of these fields where AI has already proven its value. I think in the future, what happens is that you start getting sort of what we call ecological momentary interventions, right? So these are happening in the moment where you are. So today you go to a therapist or you go to a coach when you make an appointment or you feel a need, right? And with devices, with the data we have on our members, we're able to intervene when we believe they're in need and sort of give them that personalized recommendation in the moment. So that's what I think is coming in the future, but the core personalization engine already exists in the system.
See, if I can add to something that I think we are looking very much into precision medicine, medication, personal. I think where I personally feel is this is going to enable is health and well-being, to your point, right? So if instead of waiting for the disease to happen, how can I prevent it? And how does the sensors, is going to really proactively say that, indicate that you could potentially end up having this. So you need to do X, Y, and Z to better control it, maintain it. I think, so I'm looking at the outcome of AI and the digital technology is more about longevity and health, healthy living. I think that is one of the areas that is going to be really booming, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I think if normally we don't allow audience questioning, but I think if anybody has a question, we can take one or two questions. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, I mean, we're having a fantastic conversation, but at the end of the day, there is a doctor, there is a nurse, right? There's this human touch. What is AI going to do for them so that they can be better care providers for the patients?
One basic thing, so many physicians are just struggling with the paperwork. And so the fact that generative AI can, we have the technology to listen to a physician visit, input the chart, create the material that has to go into the EMR. There's a massive productivity boost that's going to give physicians better lifestyle and the ability to spend more time on patient care than on the logistics. Filing prior authorization forms, that can all get pre-generated. So it's not the fanciest application, but that's something that physicians are struggling with. That's a near-term application where it's really going to help them do what they want to do.
It's such a good question, though. I love the question because at the end of the day, one of my advisors came back from visiting his mother-in-law who has advanced dementia, was so grateful for the nurses that are taking care of her. That's not a thing that AI is going to replace, ever. The human touch is just not something you can replace. But to what you said, Eli said, taking away the mundane tasks is the biggest opportunity to help providers do more of what they want, which is to actually be with patients. Right? The other thing that I'd say is that, at least in mental health, there's an acute shortage of actual human providers. And there's an over-treatment at the clinical level for conditions that can be treated subclinically. So there's 40% of the counties in this country do not have a single clinician, clinical therapist. That's an astounding number. And so AI can help fill those gaps where when we identify that human beings are in need of an intervention, but it's not a clinical intervention, we can approach them through technology in ways that both are preventative and also sort of keep them from needing a clinical intervention so that the clinical therapists can actually spend their time with the people in the highest need.
Thank you. I just had a question about cybersecurity. So, of course, you know, there was the NotPetya attack that was on the nuance transcription, which there was the Change Healthcare, 22 million ransomware. So even though Gen AI is, of course, really a game changer, it presents attack surface for cyber. So the question is, do you think your industry, do you think your industry, your CISOs, know how to protect the hospital systems from unintended consequences of introducing Gen AI, or whatever it is, whether it's patient care or diagnostics or workforce?
Yeah, great question. And I think when we were discussing, I was saying the same thing, security, and I alluded to you about it. Look, and nobody is, no one person or one institution knows how to combat this, okay? So the way I will answer this is, first and foremost, what are organizations doing? The organizations are creating, the biggest thing is compliance. They have a separate compliance team. They have a separately focused cybersecurity team who cannot do it by themselves. So there is a lot of partnership that is happening right now between FBI, universities, because cyber attack is not focused just on healthcare. It's as much as we are adopting more digital technologies to boost productivity, provide the right care, accessibility to all of us, there are 10, 100, I don't know how many steps ahead of us all the time, right? So it's about them creating awareness, understanding about AI. There are certain things about deep fake technologies. How do they do it? How do they combat? How do they prevent interventions into the network? So the more and more in the healthcare field, as well as in the banking and fintech, this is going to be a big lens that will be looked into. And it's only through partnership and ecosystem that you will be able to really, combat that. So the CISOs, are they prepared? They are getting prepared. They are actually asking for help and also building those essential capabilities and competencies that they need to have in order to strengthen that posture.
Yeah. Go ahead. Last question. Sure, go ahead.
So if there's one area where, for the budding entrepreneurs, to invest in, right? Looking to seriously, right? What would that be? Just a quick 5-second from all of you would be great.
Don't bother trying to replace Epic.
I would say in mental health, focus on subclinical conditions.
I guess short term, there's so much. If somebody had a business that just helped us work with our payers. Like we're always getting things like, the form didn't have the physician's address on it. So many people are ready for that business. Like if you launch that next week, you'll have customers. In the long term, bet on precision medicine and gene editing, and that's going to be a totally different industry.
I agree on the genome variation, and biomarker is another place that you can really think about. If you're really looking at a boost in what you can do next, I would say is streamlining the workflow is the super good area to really focus on, because people are struggling because of various vendors, portals. I myself have, I think, used 4 or 5 different portals for 4 different physicians of mine. And it's not centralized. So if you can come up with a creative way of ecosystem integration through API, where you have a centralized way of looking at your personal, medical problems and historical data, that'll be a phenomenal area.
I think there was one more question, I think.
Yeah, well, I have a question that might not have an answer, but I hear a lot about how AI can be used for providers on the workflow, activity, and that's important. But we have bigger problems in our healthcare system. We have a sick care system. There's perverse financial incentives that prevent patients from actually being able to get healthy. And so patients have to go to an advocate. So have you seen these solutions that tackle the bigger systemic issues, or what do you think is even viable? Because it's up a level.
Yeah, can I share a story with you that is relevant? It's not going to answer your question. It's just going to show the audience how actually complex the space is. So our research teams, we're trying to address a $150 billion problem, which is no-shows. So patient has an appointment and they don't show. That's $150 to the U.S. economy, $150 billion to the U.S. economy, right? Huge market, huge opportunity, seems like great, right? So we developed with one of our academic partners an algorithm that detects no-shows. Doesn't that sound like a fabulous idea? Hooray. Okay, so what did we actually do, and why is this not product? What we found is when we looked at the results, we were actually profiling both socioeconomic and racial differences in patients. Of course, that was not the intent, but when you look at somebody working 3 jobs and their probability of canceling a doctor's appointment is going to be higher, and guess what? Those patients are also less likely to be insured. So what is the hospital system's incentive to buy this software? Is it to not help those patients, which, sorry, there's some ugly things in healthcare, somebody pays for the walls in that hospital, or is it to help those patients? Is it to send an Uber to their house, and then they're both paying for your vendor technology and also a huge program to help these underprivileged patients? So AI in healthcare is so complex because you're dealing with humans.
Can I say? Yeah. So in mental health care, we are starting to explore what's called value-based care, which is one of these ways to try and attack this problem so that you're only getting paid when you deliver outcomes. But that depends tremendously on actually being able to measure outcomes, which in the field of mental health care is a very hard problem. So what we're trying to solve first is actually be able to reliably measure outcomes and then transition to a value-based care model. We're a provider network. We get paid both from employers directly and from insurance and health plans. And today, you're right, the cost structure and the incentives are completely misaligned. We get paid more if we just deliver more sessions, whether someone's getting better or not. Right? So our attempt at this starts with measurement and outcome measurements, so that we can then transition to a value-based and outcome-based payment model.
Thank you for adding that. I would say is there are 3 things that the industry is looking in general to your great question, by the way. So there are 3 themes that they are looking at. As one is simplification. How can you use AI and technology to simplify the entire? The second is outcome. So value-based outcome. So you will be intensified based on the outcome and the value-based. That's keeping patient in the center. So they're calling personal value-based outcome. And the third is managing risk. So how do you? So I think the gentleman asked about, these are the 3 areas. If you really think about it and look at the whole spectrum and say, where are gaps, where are opportunities, I think you go and, tackle that.
So I think, go ahead.
I'll just add one more optimistic note, which is making these decisions is incredibly complicated. And so many patients are not on optimal therapy, even without considering the value-based portion of things, even if you just look at over the next couple of months which medicine is going to be most beneficial or have the best benefit-risk ratio to you. What AI can really help with is making that recommendation. And the physician can make the final call, but at least it can say, for this patient with this tumor type, at this age, with this, sitting in this healthcare system, this is what we recommend, and they can go from there. So I do think that AI really helps with the quality of the decision. That doesn't address the other, misaligned incentives, but at least it starts from a point where you're making the best decision for the patient.
Yeah, I think we're out of time. So but they will be here outside. You can ask all the questions. So the speakers, I think because we have one more panel after it. So I would like to thank all four of you, really taking your time with busy schedules, and thank you for all of you for still being here. It's a long day, so thank you, and I will hand it over to the next session.